Well, today I'm going to talk about slide superpowers, basically the things that make this instrument unique to all other instruments, and some of the techniques that really make this instrument special. And a lot of these are just sounds that we are what we love about the slide guitar. One cool thing about this instrument is that, like other fretless instruments, there's not just note, 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 note. There's everything in between. And that's why they call it many times the singing steel or the singing guitar, because it's like a voice. As I talk, my pitch goes kind of up and down to create an impact. Hopefully it's not completely monotone. But the slide guitar is the same way. There's all the notes in between, unlike a piano where it's just note, note, note. A beautiful sound, percussive, cool, but the slide has everything in between. And because it can sound like a voice, I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to this instrument. We really relate to a voice. We all have a voice, and I think that's why a lot of people relate to the sound of the slide guitar. Sometimes I forget to take full advantage of the things that make this instrument unique. The biggest one being sliding. A lot of times I'm trying to be accurate and play notes almost the way you would play it on a guitar. I am a guitar player originally, so I have a lot of that mindset. But sometimes I need to remind myself to take full advantage of the technique of sliding. So I'm going to go into that a good bit here today. Before I go any further, I just wanted to mention I do have a teaching school, an online teaching school at artistworks.com. It's got hundreds of teaching videos, tablature, backing tracks, and maybe even several thousand video exchanges with students where a student sends in a video, I respond with a video, and you can see all that. It's an incredible resource. So if you're interested in stuff like that, you can go check that out on ArtistWorks. And if you want to see more stuff here, subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot of this stuff. So sliding. One nice thing is we naturally are going to have some sliding no matter what we do. That's just the nature of using a bar, But the more we can take advantage of it, the more we're going to take advantage of what makes this instrument awesome. So we can do, just sliding between notes as opposed to plucking them. You can go pluck, 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 or I can go pluck, slide, pluck. Mix up plucking and sliding. Or I can slide a bunch. I can do multiple notes with just one slide, say on one string. That sound, the more notes you do on one string with, like, say, one pluck, and really accentuating notes with the slide, that reminds me of, sacred steel, almost like gospel music. It's just such a cool sound. Great thing to practice. You can even practice scales with just one pluck, And I'm kind of, moving quickly from note to note to try to accentuate the pitch of each note without a pluck. So that type of thing. So if, you can practice this pluck, slide, pluck, slide, pluck, slide, pluck, slide, or you can do pluck, slide, slide, where I kind of stop and I use my pinky and ring finger as almost like a break. So as opposed to just the bar touching the strings where you don't have a ton of control and everything's happening from your elbow, if I'm cupping the bar and my pinky and ring finger are down on the strings, I've got some friction behind the bar that'll allow me to have a lot more control over it. So just, take a look at that. Pluck, slide, slide. Pluck, slide, 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 So that sort of thing. You can practice doing scales or multiple notes with one pluck, accentuating the note with the slide. So you pluck and slide, you stop on the note, and then you can move to another note. So that's sort of an exercise you can do to help kind of get your bar hand, get that muscle memory going. This is going to help with intonation too. Sliding, intonation. Obviously, you want to be in tune when you do this stuff, and practicing slides is kind of a great way to do that. Another thing you can do is add in the vibrato. So as opposed to just playing note, note, note. You can play note, 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 and end with vibrato. Now, vibrato is not something you can do when you're moving, say, quickly between notes, but at the end of a phrase, or if you're just going to play one note, it's perfect, you know? And, the nice thing about slide is it doesn't take a lot of notes to make an impact. You can just play a few notes. And with these superpowers of the slide, the vibrato, and a rake, which is what I did, which I'm going to talk about next, those three things really are the biggies: sliding, vibrato, and a rake, which I'll talk about in a minute. But for vibrato, with the bar, again, my pinky and ring finger are down, and they're creating almost like a lever. They're kind of anchored, not super hard, but they're anchored, and then the three fingers that hold the bar can move against the pinky and ring finger that are sort of set down on the strings. So as opposed to, again, just doing everything from the elbow with just the metal bar touching the strings, you don't want that because it's hard to control. So pinky and ring finger down, and then the three fingers that hold the bar can move against that sort of anchor, and then it's easy to control. A nice even vibrato, not too fast, not too slow. There's not really too slow, You can create just a soft warble, but what seems to be most effective is like a medium speed vibrato. All right, so ending with a vibrato is good. Don't try and do it in the middle of a phrase because you don't really have time. But at the end of a phrase is a great way to help also the note sustain. That's, we've got another slide superpower is using the bar to create sustain. So with vibrato, you can create sustain and a note can ring out for a long time. Now the third and last thing I'll talk about are rakes, and that's this. When I kind of mute strings before playing a note and like drag across them to create this, guitar players do this. You hear Derek Trucks do this a ton. This kind of this growl that happens before a note. I'm not going to do it every note, but that's just kind of an example. Especially if you're just doing one big note. Now I can just do it with the thumb pick, and again, the ever-important pinky and ring finger are muting the strings behind my note. So if you saw my last video, if you want one note, you tilt the bar. So the tip of the bar is just on that one note. And say you're on the high string, well now all these strings below are muted by the pinky and the ring finger that are anchored down here. When I say anchored, there's nothing tense, it's just they're set down on the strings like that to give you, sort of some leverage with the bar, and then they also just happen to mute all these strings, so I can drag my thumb pick across. That technique is a little tricky. When you first do it, you might create some weird sounds or other ringing notes, but, just get that pinky and ring finger muting all the strings behind the note you want to be ringing. You can do a rake and a vibrato. That's a powerful sound. Also, of course, the speed of your slide, it makes a big difference. You can do a fast slide or a slow slide. Right, so all these things really have nothing to do with notes. It's all how you play notes. If you hear Jerry Douglas play three notes, it sounds one way. And if you hear a beginner play the same three notes, it sounds another way. And, all that fine-tuned detail of what, somebody like Jerry Douglas or a master is able to accomplish, it's like you don't need to know more notes sometimes. You just need to make the notes you already know sound better. So that is a little bit about the superpowers of slide. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.